Welcome to Inner Light, the space where purpose, presence, and performance meet. Today, we are exploring a challenge that plagues many high achieving founders, escaping the endless cortisol dopamine busy loop while still leading successfully. Our guest is George Rivera, creator of Father First Owner, author of Buyback Time Formula, and a man on a mission to help leaders reclaim 10-20 hours a week, reduce anxiety, and be fully present at home without shrinking debris. Welcome to the show, George. It's such an honor to have you.
Thank you, Anya. Yeah, well, I'm happy to be here.
Mhm. So, George, your philosophy centers on being a father-first leader. How did your personal experience with your dad inspire this approach?
Yeah, so it was interesting. So I go back to my childhood. My father was a very busy man. He was a very, professional man. He was a doctor and he was very dedicated to his career. And, so me as a kid in, middle school, high school, that's grades between 7 and 12 in the United States, is we play a lot of sports. And a lot of times parents come out to see their kids to say, oh, yeah, go and cheer them on and be happy for them. And my dad was always too busy to go to my games. There was about 40 games that he could have gone to, and he only went to one game. So I remember when one of my teammates would score and do something good, their father would clap and say, oh, it was my son. And I remember looking at that other dad thinking, I wish he was my dad, and my dad would have been crushed to hear that, because my dad was a good man. He was just working very hard, and he was a good provider, gave us a good home and nice things, nice trips. But the moment that I needed him the most is he was not there. And it's because the son want validation from the father and encouragement and support. We all crave that. And so I didn't have that. And so fast forward about 20 years. So now I'm an adult and I have my own family. My father was diagnosed with cancer. He only had 6 months to live. And one of the final words that he told me before he passed away, he said, don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours. And Leo's my son. He had just been born a few months prior. And I was like, wow, that hit me very intense, because I thought that the memories of me as a young kid were just long lost, gone forever, never to come back. And all of a sudden they came back in that moment. And I felt peace, because it's like he recognized that, and I was thankful for that. But then on the other side, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm repeating the same mistake. I'm now that father who is busy working, missing moments, like my son's walking and starting to talk, and I'm not there because I'm working too hard. So that put inside of me this desire to be present for my family and not repeat in the mistakes of my father. So that's kind of where it comes from, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And how has that promise shaped you, the way you structure both your work and family life?
Yeah. So when he told me those words, don't miss Leo's games, I missed too many of yours, like I said, had that just emotional feeling. But I was working so much at the time that it's like you could tell somebody all this information, but if I'm working 14, 16-hour days, I'm thinking I'll just do that tomorrow, and then tomorrow, and it never comes, right? You're back to what we call the grind, working very hard. But it took 3 years. 3 years later, my business is doing a very successful with money. So it's $20 million a year business. And I'm working so hard, but I'm not enjoying life because I'm responsible for everything. And I have 40 people working for my company, but every time a little thing comes up, it comes to me. And and my expertise is working on, websites, sales letters, copy, conversions, marketing, media, and all that. So the operations side of the business, the administrative side of the business, I'm okay at it, but I'm, the same mind should not be doing administration and marketing. They're two different minds. So when you're doing both, you're not good at either one. You're just like spinning. And so, I was not very happy with that point in life, and I wanted to close my business, or even worse, maybe sabotage the business, because, you start to get careless and resentful. And so I called a good friend of mine who's also my mentor, and I told him, I hate my business. I'm making money, but it's not worth it. And I'm not get to see my family. And he basically told me, we need to change how you work. He says, you're good at marketing, so you need to stay in marketing. You don't like administrative, so you need to hire somebody for administrative. And so that phone call became the foundation for what I call now the buyback time formula, which is a collection of frameworks to help free the person from being the bottleneck, the person where everything stops, to being the free person, and your business continues to grow and you're enjoying life, you're present with your family, and you still work, but you only work on things that you're very, very good at, that you enjoy, not, the things you don't enjoy, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of when it first came to mind. And then the transformation, the success came 3 years later when I more than doubled the business from $20 to $50 million. And I had more time off than I ever had. And I was able to start other businesses. I was able to buy, real estate, invest in different properties, pour into my son wisdom and knowledge, experience. I taught him how to negotiate real estate, and we travel all over the place. And so that was kind of the transformation. And that was 2021. And then over the last 3 or 4 years, I've had friends and peers in different groups, not together, but just different, independently, tell me, you need to teach this stuff. How are you doing this? Other men need to know about this. And I remember thinking, well, I don't know. I've only done this. I've never taught it. There's some people out there that they'll teach something and they're good at teaching it, but they've never done it. They just know what to say, but they don't have the experience. And so I'm the other way. I have the experience, but I didn't know what to say. And so over the last 3 or 4 months, everything kind of came together. I put it, in this book, Buyback Time Formula, and there's a process to freeing yourself up. And when you buy back your time, you can use the extra time to do whatever you want. I'm a family man, father, so that's where I put my time. But if, you're a single woman of 50 years old and you don't have a family, then you maybe want to travel or want to enjoy new hobbies in life. And so the principles apply to anybody to free them up. And what you do with the free time is up to you. But I like to connect with the fathers that are busy, spending all of their time on their business and neglecting the times at home, like my father was. And I'm trying to help people open their eyes, because whenever they get to the end of their life, they're never going to say, oh, I'm so thankful that I missed your game for this client meeting. Nobody says that, right? So why do we keep doing that? I don't know. So we need to be aware that one day we will regret it if we do not realize it now. So that's kind of my story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's moving. Like a reminder that presence isn't optional, transformative for both business and home.
True.
And so the cortisol dopamine busy loop is something many founders don't even realize they are in. Can you explain what that is and how it impacts decision making and relationships?
Yeah, so cortisol and dopamine, I'm sure you're familiar, and your listeners too. Like, cortisol is more of a stress, and then dopamine is more like enjoyment. And it's like, it's hard for an entrepreneur to be right in the middle. It either has to be stressful or has to be enjoyable. And we can attach our identity, like for me, for example, I strive to be successful because I get the dopamine of success, but then it runs out quickly, and then then you go this way over to stressful, and then now I need to feel that again, and so it feels like this loop that you're constantly stuck in, because there's the chemicals in our brain and the hormones that make us feel a certain way. So I think a way that I get around that is to make sure that my vision is structured, my time is structured, with peace and presence. I make sure that I schedule family time and try to have a balanced life. Now, nobody's perfect. You're always going to see little areas to improve, but the goal is to minimize, the stressful times and maximize on the times when you feel like, you're doing right, you're present for your family, you're still, making money because you have to provide. And so yeah, that's how I approach that cortisol dopamine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And also, can you explain are there small signs that someone is trapped in this loop before burnout hits?
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's one of those things, sometimes when the sign comes, it's almost too late. So you have to sort of be aware that, you can eventually work yourself into this. But I think one of the small signs is like, if you accept say you have a team and they say, hey, can I speak to you for a few minutes? And you're always answering their questions constantly. They're always taking your time. I think eventually you're going to get tired of that. So one of the things that I tell people is look at what you do. How many times a week do you do the same exact thing? Just do it once, create a standard operating procedure or SOP, a process that your people, your team can reference, and then that will show them how to do it correctly instead of every time you have to explain the same thing. That's just a time waster and a time killer. It's very inefficient. You're paying them to work for you, so it's wasting money, and it's draining for you, for your mind too, because the business owner needs to be focused on growing the business, not, how to do this and how to do that same thing many times per week. It gets repetitive and draining.
Yeah, like that makes total sense. Clarity and calm are essential currencies, and we often neglect it in the pursuit of success.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I'm very, very guilty of that myself, and especially at the very beginning, when you start buying back your time, you need to be very careful because we have old habits of, oh, now I have extra time, so I'm going to do something else. And you just bring it back, you bring back the pressure. So you need to be aware, like you said, the signs when things start piling on, you got to be aware of where that's headed. So yeah, it takes practice. It's not perfect right away, but you've got to be intentional. And then you have to routinely review the frameworks and the process to make sure that there's no leaks in the system.
Yeah, totally. And also, your system blends spiritual practices with practical tools. How do micro Sabbaths, quiet prayers, and gratitude integrate with things like 10K dollar hour filter and 2 week vacation test?
Yeah. So yeah, interesting. A lot of interesting things there. So like a sabbatical is just sort of like observing a certain time period where, you just close everything down and you do not think about work. Sometimes it still comes in because we're not perfect, but you try to minimize the time that you think about work just to focus on family and to be grateful. So I believe it's hard to be thankful and grateful at the same time as being worried and stressed out, right? It's like, it's hard to have two emotions at the same time. So if you focus on being grateful and thank you, like me, I'm thankful to my creator for another day on this planet. I'm thankful for air in my lungs. I'm thankful for another opportunity to make impact on my family. It's hard to be also worried at the same time about any negative things. And so you just change your mindset. So that's the gratitude part, I think, helps center us there. And then the 10K per hour part is basically, and that's just an example, but every founder and entrepreneur needs to evaluate how much is their time worth. So some it might be 10K, some it might be 1K, some it might be $500. So you need to see what is it that you're doing. And if you're consistently doing work that you could have somebody else do for, say, $20 an hour, if we're talking USD, that's a much more efficient spend of money than you, who's $500 USD or $1,000 doing the same task. So you should be doing things that grow the business, that move the business to more revenue, while the lesser tasks can be done by somebody else who's gets paid that appropriate amount, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And can these really coexist without sacrificing productivity or revenue?
So that's my goal. My saying is double your business and double your family time. Yes, you can have it together. It takes intention, it takes a framework, and it takes confidence in the framework. And if something doesn't work, we need to analyze, okay, what went wrong? And there's a number of elements. Did we follow the framework? Is the right person the one to be doing this task? And so once you get that, what we call dialed in, once you get it like really honed in, then it's a beautiful thing. And what I tell people, because we all do so many things, but if you just, buy back your time with one task, you will be hooked and you will be addicted to doing this more and more and more in your business and try to figure out other ways to be more efficient.
Yeah, totally. And I love that. Like, it's holistic approach, showing that inner calm fuels better business and not less.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's all about starting, with you being calm, composed, confident, and having a roadmap, a system to follow. And yeah, and then you just plug it in and you have to have faith that the system works. And if for whatever reason it doesn't, we troubleshoot it, but you got to be committed to making it work because we know that the outcome, the transformation is worth, the experience and the journey.
Yeah. And also, delegating outcomes instead of tasks is a game changer. What mindset shift does that require for founders used to controlling everything?
Yeah. So yeah, like I used to like to control everything and I thought that I was the best at it. And honestly, thinking back, that's kind of an arrogant attitude. Like that's negative thing because my position now is if somebody can, so say I'm here, like say I'm at 100% and then somebody can do it at 80%, that's good enough. But the reality is if they get enough practice, they're going to take that 80% and go to 120%. They're going to surpass your 100%. And so I think it's an arrogant attitude to think that I'm the only one who can do this. So you need to be humble a little bit and be willing to accept that others can do it better. And also I can hear in people's heads say, well, I've tried delegation before and it doesn't work. And I would say I also did that and it didn't work. And the reason is because I wasn't transferring or delegating proper ownership of the task. I was simply saying, here, do this. I wasn't giving clear instruction or clear guidance or anything. And so when we finally got clarity on our tasks, and they owned the outcomes properly, that's when everything changed.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And also, how can someone start experimenting with this without fear of losing quality or authority?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, I think, first you have to be aware, you have to want to do this, you have to have the intention. Sometimes people need to feel a little bit of like pain or they're missing something before they feel the motivation to do this. Or hopefully they're just smart enough to say, I don't ever want to experience this, so let me start correctly now. But once you do that, I say start with something small that you can get off of your plate. And that starts with by reviewing how you spend your time. And then once you can identify those things that you should not be doing because you are the business owner, you're the founder, you're supposed to make more money for the business, bring in more revenue, not, administrative things behind the scenes that other people can do. Once you get somebody to do that and then they do it better or just 80% to start, then that's going to be the beginning of your new world to experience more and more of that. And yeah, it's exciting. And that's how your business can grow because you're putting the right people in the right place to support the business. And the way and the reason it grows is because the time that you spend in the business, you're thinking about, the strategic connections and marketing or whatever it is that your expertise is.
Yeah. And that's so practical, like trust and structure become allies rather than threats, giving freedom and focus back to the founder.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm. And for listeners who want to reclaim time, but be present but feel trapped by company demands, what's the first step?
Yeah, I think the first thing is you have to review, say, your past week's worth of work. So say if you have a calendar, but I know if they're like me, I did not have a great calendar to begin with. I might say, oh, I have a call at this time, but I don't put in my calendar, oh, I wrote this document and I, filled out this application. Like I didn't write that. So if you're not good at tracking what you do on a day-to-day basis at detail, you should start now for the next 2 weeks. And then once 2 weeks is up, you look back and then you look at the things that, what is it that helped the business grow? And what is it that somebody else could have done that I'm not properly delegating to? And once you identify those issues, you're going to be able to free up a lot of time by getting things off of your plate. And any of those things that repeat consistently that you see that you're having to do over and over, you just shoot what's like a Loom video or an instructional video of here is how to accomplish this task. And here's what it looks like perfectly completed. Here's what it looks like to satisfaction. And then the person you're giving it to has the roadmap already, and they don't need to come back to you time and time and time again. So that's one thing. And then another simple thing is, let's say if you've got your team is coming up to you for some expenses, so you can set a dollar amount or USD. Say for me it's $500. So anything over $500, please let me know that you want to buy it, and we'll talk about it. Anything under it, just go buy it. You don't have to bother me. Like, buy it, implement it, and then at our meeting, we'll discuss it. Do we need to keep it? Do we cancel it? Do we need more? So those are the kind of things that you give freedom to the people on your team to do, so that you're not being bothered with every little decision. And doing that took away like 90% of communications from some people in a positive way, like freeing up my time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, is there a small ritual or filter you recommend implementing immediately?
Yeah, I'd say the thing to recommend and implement immediately might just be like the calendar audit is what I call it, or the freedom audit, where you actually start tracking exactly what you're doing. I really think that that's the best thing that you can do right now to start making some progress. Because if you don't track what you do, then it's like we don't really have a map to begin with. So we need to know what it is that you're doing, and then after that, you need to value the task. Like, am I supposed to do this, or can I have somebody else do this? I mean, you do those two things. That's basically the foundation. I mean, there's other frameworks, but that's how you get started.
Yeah. And that's inspiring. Like, it shows that reclaiming life isn't about quitting work, but aligning it with what truly matters.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's true. It's like, so you find out what is your purpose on this earth, and then make sure that you're in alignment, and you make work go around your life, not the other way around. Not you living to work, but make work support your life.
Yeah. So thank you, George, for showing us that being a high-performing founder and a present parent aren't mutually exclusive. And to everyone listening, maybe it's time to step off that busy loop, reclaim your hours, and lead with both heart and strategy. Don't miss your moments. The game is bigger than your scoreboard.